Hey guys, Kelsey here, your best friend on the homestead. Sorry, crunching through the snow. Making a video today that I don't really want to make, and that is, sorry about ducks coming out. Juneberry lost her pregnancy, and it really sucks. And I was pretty emotional about it yesterday. I'm doing better today. I'm not the sort of person who's going to turn a camera on when I'm crying because it seems weird to me. I'm too Midwestern and too Scandinavian. But Juneberry, it can also be called slipping a calf. Ducks. Also be called slipping a calf, although she was right around 3 months, which is, I mean, it's not really, it doesn't look like a calf at that point. There wasn't actually, at the development, it should have been about the size of a rat. I never found anything that had a distinctive figure, but just some kind of clear signs. So it's pretty cold out, so I'm just going to show you sort of what I found that indicated that's what happened. And then we'll go inside and I'll kind of talk through more why potentially it happened, what kind of the game plan is, and what some causes in general are for a cow to lose a pregnancy. Hi, this is me cutting in front of the actual start of this video because I just had a thought that in this video I'm going to be talking about a pregnancy loss for my cow. I'm going to be showing what that looks like. It's not too incredibly graphic. It's mostly just a little bit, well, you'll see. But I just want to give a little bit of a heads up because I know that pregnancy loss is a very sensitive topic for obvious and very good reasons. So if this is something that you're just not in a place to handle right now, then maybe come back and visit it at a different time if it's something you still need to learn about. But I just wanted to kind of be sensitive to that and give you a heads up. Okay, back into the video. Here's our girl, by the way. Hey, baby. Hey, baby. Yeah. Oh, yeah. My poor girl. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that happened, honey. Okay, so I'll show you what I found up here. Hi, birdie. Woo, the wind's really nasty. So the main thing that I found, I moved it out of the pen because I don't want them laying on it and stuff. Here, I'll flip the camera around. Is here. So that is not manure around there. That is tissue. That isn't poop, like that kind of dark stuff there. That is, I'm guessing those are parts of the calf that we're developing, which is a bummer. So maybe kind of, right there-ish, maybe that may have been the body of the developing fetus. And then, at first I wasn't sure because chickens have been hanging out around here. And I thought maybe it was a chicken that got in the night, but you can see here there's some blood because she's still cleaning out. But really, hi birdie girl. But really sold it for me that it was a pregnancy loss. More so was that right here was where I had found kind of that bigger pile, and then you can see here there's kind of blood up the side here, so that it came out in sort of a splat situation. That's what was kind of told me that it came from a height, that it wasn't something that happened on the ground. Hi, sweetheart. And then since then, I've been just finding spots like this, which again, this isn't too abnormal. Those are the chickens. I need to get over to the coop. And I'll show you just some other things here. So sometimes you can see, blood mixed in with stool, but it's really clear that that's not the case. It's just the blood. And then we'll go over here into the snow. I'm sorry, I know this is really graphic, but it's important to me that you guys see some of this stuff so you know what to look for. So here too, you can just see some of the blood in the snow. And when you consider, a full pregnancy and the size of a cow's uterus and everything, the amount of blood that I'm seeing is not alarming to me. That's it's really, there was some more in the bedding, but I wanted to get it cleared out just in case, because Birdie is, I believe, fingers crossed, bred. And so here, baby. And so you do want to remove any, tissues and, anything you can, just in case, because sometimes animals can pick up stuff from those things, especially if you happen to be pregnant yourself or trying to conceive. I would highly recommend that you have someone else deal with that stuff, and you certainly not touching it with your bare hands, and just not being around it in general is probably a good idea. Okay, I don't have too much time to film this morning, but I wanted to get shots of stuff while it was still out there, and I have to kind of take you with me while I do a few things here quick. So let's see, it was Ooh, this all probably happened. I noticed everything yesterday morning, so it's likely that this happened. The miscarriage happened probably night before last or sometime early yesterday morning, and it's just a bummer. It really is, for a lot of different reasons. You know, my big plan had been for her to calve in May, is when this calf would have been due. I was really excited about this calf because it's I even did a "Who's the Baby Daddy" video, which is so sad, to a bull named Weld, who I was excited about. He's A2 registered Jersey. He's got grass-based genetics. It was sex semen. We did have to AI her twice, so it was a real bummer that it happened. But it's not uncommon. Sorry, it's kind of dark in here. It's not uncommon for miscarriages to happen around this time. So she is between 3 and 4 months, and between kind of 4 to 6 is when you most likely see them. So I'm going to finish up what I got to finish up, and then I'll go finish recording in the house and kind of talk through a little bit more of, you know, why this could have happened, what I'm doing, you know, how I'm looking out for her, what we're doing to hopefully prepare for a successful pregnancy going forward, and so forth. But yeah, I'm starting to steam up my glasses. So we'll go in and we'll finish the conversation. Okay, we are back in the house where it is warm. My camera won't die. We can kind of talk through these things a little more. Please ignore Eloise in the background as well as my messy house. This is just the best spot where I have decent enough lighting, and it's hopefully far enough away from where my son is napping that he will keep sleeping. Okay. So let's dive into this. If you think your cow has lost her pregnancy, if you have found this, I'm going to talk through a little bit about what you should do for her care, talk about how you can figure out potentially why the pregnancy was lost, and some things to do moving forward. So first of all, if the pregnancy is lost before 45 days, it's considered an embryonic death. And so it's you might not see anything. Sometimes they have just extra, like a more severe looking kind of bleed off situation. You might find something, some sort of discharge, or they sometimes can even just reabsorb everything and you won't even notice that anything has happened. It is considered an abortion if it is happening prior to 270 days, but after that 45-day window. And then if the baby is, you know, fully developed, just kind of earlier, even if it dies within like a day or two of it being born, it's considered stillborn. Now, first things you want to do is you want to get this stuff cleared out of their area. You don't want your dogs getting into it, because just in case they do have some sort of, you know, like disease or whatever, or weird bacteria, you don't want your animals eating that, because some things can pass from animal to animal. So you want stuff cleaned up. If you have like a big compost pile, you can put it in, or just somewhere, you know, just get rid of it. You don't want your cows in it. Get it out of there in case there's something wrong with it. After you've gotten things cleaned up, you want to check on your girl. How is she doing? Juneberry honestly acted like nothing was happening. I didn't even see blood on her body ever, which is kind of crazy because I was thinking I'd see clear signs of that. There was nothing. You can look to see if it is mixed in with like fecal matter at all. That can be something different. But in this case, it was just plain blood, wasn't mixed in with poop at all. So it was very clear it was like a separate situation happening. But make sure your cow is doing well. Juneberry was eating, drinking. She was a little bit crankier during that time. It took from the day I first found the blood probably about 4 or 5 days before she finished cleaning out. Like everything got flushed out and there wasn't anything else, which is it's kind of helpful when it happens this time of year. Because of the snow, it's very obvious when there's new blood or not. But so she did fine. If she was having any issues at all, that's something I had to check in with my vet, just some, you know, things to kind of, you know, boost her system up or whatever I need to do. I did bring her some buckets of warm molasses water, just because that's something that I've always done. I was taught when I first was working at a sheep farm that new moms always get a big bucket of molasses water. And so since she is having some extra blood loss and stuff, and clearly her body's going through something, I wanted to give her just a little bit of a boost. So I did bring her some more molasses water. The next thing we want to do is try and figure out potentially what caused this. Now, just like with people, sometimes it just happens. I taught embryology to 4th graders for a lot of years when I worked as a 4-H coordinator. And that's something we talked about, because they would, you know, in their little groups, they'd each get an egg, they get to incubate. And so we talk about sometimes it's going to start to develop and it's just going to stop. And that doesn't necessarily mean, you know, relating to our cow, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with her necessarily. Sometimes there's just something that didn't develop correctly and nature is just saying, you know what, nope, this one's not going to, it's not going to make it. We're not going to keep this pregnancy. So sometimes that just happens. And you're never going to figure out why. Now, if this is something that you're seeing occasionally, I have never had this happen with our cows. I have had, I got my first cow in 2012, 2013. I can't remember. It's been a long time. We've had cows and had between 1 and 2 calves born every year. And I've had some instances where they potentially could have reabsorbed because I thought they were bred and it turned out that they weren't. But I have never had like a very clear situation like this one before. So to me, that says this is probably just kind of one of those cases where it's sort of an anomaly. However, there is one thing that I'm annoyed with myself that I haven't done that we'll get to in a minute here that could potentially be the cause for it. But if this is something you were seeing consistently in your cows, if more than one cow is losing a pregnancy, if you have a couple of them, if other animals are losing pregnancies, then you definitely have something going on, an underlying thing, and you need to get to the bottom of why that is. So there's a few different kind of categories as to why. One is going to be from like a disease type of a thing. Nutrition is another issue. And then also kind of outside stressors. So for Juneberry, it was when it really started getting cold. And Juneberry is an older cow. She's either going to turn 10 or 9 this year, in 2026. I can't remember. And so it could have been just the stress of this really big swing. It was, at night we were hitting with the wind, it was like 35, 40 below. Actual air temperature was, 20 some below. So it could have just been too hard on her system. And her body's like, nope, we got to keep you alive. We're not doing this. So stressors like that can be something that causes it. So like extreme heat, extreme cold, if they get sick, like pneumonia, if they have some sort of traumatic thing like an injury, those are all things that can cause pregnancy loss. Now, on a nutrition side, that's where I'm wondering if that's not where my problem came from. I checked in with my vet because I kind of consulted with him after this whole process, since I've never had this happen before. And I checked in with kind of my mineral routine that I have. And there's one piece of my mineral routine that I haven't done in the last couple of months because I've been forgetful and I've just been letting it slide. And it could be why, it might not be why. But so some important things that you want to make sure is your cows, they need to have selenium is a big one. And that's one where separate from my minerals, I usually get a little selenium block and have it out there. And I just kept forgetting when I was at Fleet Farm, or I, forgot to tell my husband or whatever. And so it's been a couple months since they've had selenium out there. And so that can be a major cause in pregnancy loss or just general health issues of selenium. And that's something that comes naturally in soils, but some soils are just completely depleted of it. And so you have to supplement that. So iodine, manganese, selenium, A&E, just having a good vitamin source for your cows. So what I do is I have a mineral lick, like a multi-mineral lick. I also keep a selenium lick out there. And then I have free choice, like loose Redmond salts and kelp. And I ran that kind of by my vet just to double check that all sounded good. Because I know in like some of the cow groups and stuff, people will really say, you got to have loose. You can't just have it in a block. And so, I mean, again, we've never had this problem before. My cows have always stayed pretty healthy, knock on wood. But so that's what we do. And it's just, I have been missing that selenium piece. So that, I wonder if that wasn't the issue. Obviously, too, making sure your cow is keeping good condition. Juneberry is getting a little older, and I've always had fat cows. I get told by everybody all the time my cows are too fat. And being too fat can certainly be an issue, but more than being too fat, being underweight. And again, Juneberry is not underweight or struggling by any means, but she is getting older. She's wearing a little leaner in the winters, and so that could be part of the problem. So making sure your cow has minerals, good nutrition, good forage, those are things that are really important to do. Next thing to talk about is it's possible that your cow has some sort of disease or illness. And there's different ways they can contract them, or there are things that they can already have in them. So a really good idea, if you were seeing this, I might not do this just because it was a one-off kind of a thing, but if it happens again, I'm absolutely gonna test for it, or maybe I will, I don't know, I haven't decided. But you can send off a blood sample for a reproductive panel. And so this is something your vet can come and do and pull, and my vet, he'll come take a blood sample and ship it off. Otherwise, you can just kind of, see if there's a university near you that does the testing, or, call your local DHIA lab. They might do it, or know who would do the testing for you. And this is going to test for a few different things that your cow may have contracted. So they're going to test for BVD, IBR, Neospora, and 5 different types of leptospirosis. So bovine viral diarrhea is something that your cows, unfortunately, it gets passed to them while they are in utero. And it sounds like your cow should be having diarrhea constantly, and you'd tell, obviously, but that's not the case. But it's something that they can kind of carry, but they shed it out of their body, and then it can be picked up by other animals, unfortunately. So that's one that you should test for, and I should make another video about things to test for before you buy your cow. But that's something that you would definitely want to call that animal if they have that going on. Neospora is one that it's more likely. I was doing some research on drovers. It's more likely they're going to have a miscarriage, but like the 6 month mark, 6 months and on. And that's something they can actually pick up from dog poop, unfortunately. And that's not one, I don't think that's one that they like typically like carry and shed, but it's something they can get. It's also infectious bovine. I think it's rhinotracheitis, something like that. And that's a respiratory infection and issue that they can get as well. And then the last, of course, is leptospirosis, and that is one you might be familiar if you have dogs. That we don't do a ton of vaccines, all the things for our pets. We do like rabies and we do lepto because that is one that can be picked up by drinking stagnant water or water that's moving pretty slowly. So if you've got water that's sitting around in a bucket or something like that, or in puddles and things, they can pick it up. This is one where, as well, the animals can carry it. They can pass it to the offspring. It is one that there is a vaccine for, and we'll talk about that more in a little bit here. But so lepto is one that also is carried in the urine of rodents. So this is another one that as I was kind of doing my own research and figuring out what could have caused this, is we have a pretty vibrant rabbit population down in our farmyard. We haven't really had it. Last year was the first time it kind of got big. And so I've noticed, I just kind of enjoy the rabbits hopping around and whatever. They hang out in the hay shed sometimes and eat hay. And it's like, oh, look at those smart rabbits. They're not really eating that much hay and hanging out. However, their urine carries lepto or can carry lepto. So if they peed on a hay bale and I fed it to the cows, I wouldn't know, or if they peed somewhere else and the cows were licking up hay off the snow and licked up some rabbit pee. I don't know. So that's another issue. And so that is one that you can get a vaccine that I haven't done it in the past, but it's one after talking with my vet that I am going to do now for my pregnant girls. It's one where you give a shot and then you give a booster a couple weeks later, and then it's an annual thing that they get at least as long as they're pregnant. So that's one just where I can't control those factors, and they can pick it up. And it is, it is definitely a cause of pregnancy loss in cows, unfortunately. Okay, so that is all kind of the breakdown of what you should do, what you should watch for, how you can hopefully prevent it, and then as well, just some kind of things that you can check to see maybe what caused it. And if you are watching this video, I am so sorry. It is such a bummer. I was just devastated for a few days. And, I kept reminding myself, like my cows are healthy, they're fine. She'll probably be able to get pregnant again. But there's some other, I can't tell you about it right now, but there's some other factors where the timing of her pregnancy was just going to be perfect. It was all just kind of the stars aligning, and that she got bred, and it was to a bull that I was super excited for. And it was going to be a May 15th baby, which is just like perfect in Minnesota, had all these wonderful factors to it, and it's not meant to be. So again, if you're going through this, if you have any questions, make sure you comment below. I'll do my best to help you. Of course, I am not a veterinarian. I always say my video should be used as sort of a basis for you to kind of start research from or incorporate into part of your research, but always check with your veterinarian and talk with them kind of on their thoughts and their recommendations for you in your specific case and you and your specific cow. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead. I'm pretty sure it goes over here. I'm going to post some videos up here. If you are interested in homestead dairy and homestead cows, make sure you check those out. And also make sure if this is helpful to you, I would love it if you would subscribe. I'm building such a great community here. You guys are building such a great community here, more appropriately. I'd love to have you stick around. Otherwise, I'll see you here next week for more from our rough and tumble farmhouse.